Houston, Texas, George Floyd's hometown, the response to the events of 2020 was very different than what we've seen in other cities. As you'll discover, the foundation of cooperation that is at the heart of this diverse city led them to reject attempts by outsiders to divide and conquer.
As a precursor, it's important to point out that George Floyd was actually from here, from Houston. And I think that added a little bit of a unique element to the reaction that the city had relative to other big cities. Insofar as the lack of a riot-infused response, I mean, we certainly did have protests. There's no doubt about that. In fact, my place of work is not too far from downtown, so I actually got to catch a glimpse of some of those protests, and I can tell you firsthand that it might have gotten a little loud, but it wasn't to the point that we saw some of the protests really get out of hand.
An understandably distraught family wanted to make sure that his life was celebrated in his hometown. But some saw it as an opportunity, and instead of focusing on the family, they used his funeral to make political speeches.
You take rubber bullets and tear gas to clear out peaceful protesters, and then take a Bible and walk in front of a church and use a church as a prop. Wickedness in high places. You ain't been walking across that street when the church didn't have the boards up.
He could have used that time to create a hope for something positive. And really just to in remembrance of somebody's life, regardless of how you feel about George Floyd. That's that person's life. People loved him. There are people who loved him, his family, his friends. And watching something like that is so traumatic. To get up and make political statements during a funeral or a memorial service, whatever, it's tacky and it's distasteful. And it should put everybody on alert that there's something wrong. There's something sick about our society when that's acceptable.
Someone like Al Sharpton, who was a national leader coming in, coming into Houston and telling us how we should feel and how we should look at these things. We already have a certain culture here of cooperation. We're already working towards progress. So why are you coming into Houston, Texas as a national figure claiming that we have such a serious issue that now we've got to go and start a movement that could lead to destruction of property and pain and violence? And so we saw it as opportunistic, right? And it didn't match what we thought it didn't match what I think as Texans, Houstonians, it didn't match what we thought would be a response to an opportunity to keep the discussion going on justice and looking at the issue of policing in minority neighborhoods.
Houstonians were disappointed at the divisiveness from outsiders, as their city has a unique culture of people of all races working together.
We have this notion of Southern hospitality, which means that you see less of a tendency for folks from different communities to self-segregate, like you would see, saying like in places like New York, which makes it a lot more difficult to cross-cut a lot of the cultural fragmentation that you see in societies where you're having folks from different walks of life try to live amongst each other. And number two, I think that's really important to take into account is the fact that the Black community here in Houston really, I guess, from a cultural standpoint, has contributed so much to the Houstonian identity. And you see that more than anything else in hip hop. So rap runs deep through all Houstonians to varying degrees. I mean, you ask any Houstonian here, and we all know who our Houston rap heroes are. It's just part and parcel of living in the city, kind of like, say, really the best example would be maybe Atlanta.
Members of this diverse city were willing to support the sentiment of Black Lives Matter. They were disturbed when they discovered the difference between the sentiment and the political organization.
You know, I did see people start to say, okay, what are we really doing here? You know, what is really going on here? I was ready to go out and start marching, you know? And then I looked and I saw what was going on in the streets. And I just said, I don't want to be a part of that.
As a sentence in and of itself, right? That declaratory statement that Black Lives Matter. Most people will say, "Oh, yeah, duh, of course." I don't see your point. You would think maybe there's going to be a follow-up to it, but that was emphatically morphed into two things: a battle cry and an involuntary support of an organization that has been admitted to have Marxist roots. If you listen to the founders themselves, all you had to do was go onto their website before they quietly scrub this information from the website itself.
Again, when I heard Black Lives Matter, yes, I'm on board. As an American, yeah, let's do it. I'll support, but then you begin to hear these clues and things going on. You see some of the movement and it turns into what the media called protest, but I call destruction and chaos.
A lot of people righteously mad and righteously hurt by what they saw, but being irrational in their response. And I think that is, that's the way that they put it, so that we will overreact, so that we will lash out.
And what really upsets me as an attorney, as a proud Texan, is that anytime we get into the issue of solving crime or trying to stop crime, that now it becomes a racial issue, right? And it's like you can't even have a united discussion on the issue of crime, because the extremities of all sides have become so divided. So here we are as citizens of Houston, Texas, suffering. Crime rate's getting out of control here. We just saw the shooting of Takeoff from the Migos rap group here in Houston. And it shouldn't have happened, right? I mean, there was a time when, Houston was on the scene and people were coming over from the music industry. And it was fun to come to Houston, right? You hear all these rap songs about how fun it is to have a good time in Houston. Well, guess what? Now we lost a big star here due to violence. When we begin to talk about crime and how the police should approach things, we should have a united debate between all communities. It should be rational. It should be problem solving. But now it appears like, it feels like that you've got one side saying defund the police, right? Practically saying get rid of the police. And you've got another side that says, well, there's no problem. And all this happened because of the way Black Lives Matters, the organization, I believe damaged they damage or undermine the way we're supposed to debate, the way we're supposed to unite on issues. And let's fight it out in the battle of ideas, and let's reach a conclusion, right? Let's solve this issue.
In Houston, there's a community rooted in diversity, full of people who were willing to fight for the rights of all. But as they and many others have discovered, the movement was replaced by the political organization.
Stop allowing other people to pigeonhole us into criminality. Stop allowing other people to dictate to us how our society should be run. We need to take back our community as Black people, as Black men, I say. you need to take back that community. Run for these offices and open up businesses and hire security and become mentors. Each one teach one. And if you're good at it, each one teach 100, and start moving into a more positive direction.